Students, politics of planned development. We are on the third chapter, ideas of development. We have discussed about the right and the left wing, and today ideas of the development. Development, the ideas thinking about the development. Very often, this contestation involves the very idea of the development. The example of Odisha shows us that there is not enough to say that everyone wants development. ਉੜੀਸਾ ਦੀ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਹੋ ਹੀ ਚੁੱਕਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਹਰੇਕ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਹੋਵੇ ਫॉर ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਹੈਜ਼ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਮੀਨਿੰਗਸ ਫॉर ਦ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਸੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਆਫ ਦ ਪੀਪਲ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਮੀਨਿੰਗ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਅਲੱਗ-ਅਲੱਗ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਅਲੱਗ-ਅਲੱਗ ਹੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ would mean different things, for example like to an industrialist who is planning to set up a steel plant and to an urban consumer of the steel plant and to an Adivasi who lives in the region. So the idea of development is different for these all sections. Thus, any discussion on the development is bound to generate contradictions, conflicts and debates. So the discussion about the development is always contradictory, related to conflicts and debates. The first decade after independence witnessed a lot of debate around the question. It was common then as it is even now. This question of the planning as it is common now, this was different from that time after the independence. For people refer to the best as a standard for measuring the development. For the Western people, development means to raise the standard. Development was about becoming more modern and modern was about becoming more like the industrialized countries of the best. Development means becoming more modern, and who are modern, they want to become more like the industrial countries like the West. This is how common people as well as the experts thought. This is the thinking of the experts or the common people. It was believed that every country would go through the process of the modernization as in the West, that every country would go through this process of the modernization of the best countries, which involve the breakdown of the traditional social structures and the rise of the capitalism and liberalism, and we have to change the traditional social structure and adopt the capitalism and liberalism. Modernization was also associated with the idea of the growth, material progress and scientific rationality. This means the growth and the material progress, scientific rationality. This kind of idea of development allow everyone to talk about the different countries as developed, developing or the underdeveloped. Developed countries means which are already developed, and developing or underdeveloped means that are in the path of the development, that are continually developing, that are under process of the development. On the eve of the independence, India had before it two models of the modern development: the liberal capitalist model as in much of the Europe and the US, the socialist model as in the USSR. On the eve of the time of the independence, India have two models: capitalist model and socialist model. We have already studied about these ideologies in the Cold War between the two superpowers USA and the USSR in the prior chapters, our previous chapters. There were many in India then who were deeply impressed by the Soviet model of development. There were two models: capitalist model was related to the USA and socialist model was adopted by the USSR. Some were impressed by the Soviet system and some were impressed by the capitalist system. These included not just leaders of the Communist Party of India, but also in those who were those of the Socialist Party, like leaders like the Nehru within the Congress. There were very few supporters of the American style capitalist development. This reflected a broad consensus that had developed during the national movement. Consensus was during the national movement. The nationalist leaders were clear that the economic concern of the government of free India would have to be different from the narrowly defined commercial functions of the colonial government. our national leaders of the national movement, nationalist leaders wants also the economic development. They also concerned about the economic development. They want to uh, leave the narrow system of the colonial government, and they want to adopt the free system of the economy. It was clear, moreover, that the task of poverty alleviation and social and economic redistribution was being seen primarily as the responsibility of the government. It was seen that this was the primary responsibility of the government to develop the social and the economic system. For some, industrializations seem to be preferred path. For others, the development of agriculture. In the urban system, there was the preferred path of the industrialization for development, and in the rural areas, agriculture seemed to be the path of the development. In particular, alleviation rural poverty was the priority. Poverty ਨੂੰ reduce ਕਰਨਾ ਇਹੀ prior responsibility ਸੀਗੀ. This has been done by ਦ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ, ਇਹ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਦੁਆਰਾ ਹੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਣਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਔਰ ਰੂਰਲ ਏਰੀਆਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਗਰੀਕਲਚਰ ਨੂੰ ਵਧਾ ਕੇ ਐਂਡ ਅਰਬਨ ਏਰੀਆਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੰਡਸਟਰੀਲਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਪਰੂਵ ਕਰਕੇ. Then is planning. Despite the various differences, there was a consensus on one point, that the development could not be left to private sectors, that there was a need for the government to develop a design or plan for the government. One more question is here, that the path of the development or the development should not be in the left to the private sectors. It should be the responsibility of the government to develop or plan or design a plan for the development. कि planning करना सारी government ਦੀ responsibility होनी चाहिए सी, ना कि किसी private ਦੇ sector ਦੇ ਹੱਥ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ. In fact, the idea of planning as the process of rebuilding economy earned a good deal of the public support in the 1940s and 1950s all over the world. It earned a good deal of the public support during the 1940s and the 1950s. Planning Commission was not a sudden intervention. It has a long and a vast history. All industrialists, big businessmen, private investors, all are involved in the idea of the planning. They all are involved in it. That was not what happened here. Rather, a section of the big industrialists got together in 1944 and drafted a joint proposal for setting up a planned economy in the country. It was called a Bombay Plan. This is very important for the short question. What is Bombay Plan? Bombay Plan means a vast section of the big industrialists got together in 1945 to draft a joint proposal for the setting up of a planned economy in the country. This is called the Bombay Plan. Bombay Plan wanted the state to take major initiatives in the industrial and the economic investments. That state should played an important role in this regarding the industries and the economic investment. So planning for development was the most obvious choice for the country after the independence. After the independence, it was the most favorable choice of the country for a planned economy. Soon after India became independent, India got the independence in 1947, and the Planning Commission came into being in 1950 by a simple resolution of the Government of India. Prime Minister was its chairperson. Prime Minister is chairperson. See, it became the most influential and central machinery for deciding what path and strategy India would adopt for its development. It is the responsibility of the chairperson to draft a strategy and to adopt a machinery that is favorable for the development. That वो development है ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ, ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, ਕਿਹੜੀ strategy adopt ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ. It is the prime responsibility of the chairperson of planning commission, means of the prime minister.